Hello and welcome to Yoga Salvatica. My name is Lexi, and in today's session, I'll be showing you what exactly is a vinyasa. To begin, find a comfortable seated position on your mat and begin to bring your awareness to your breath. Today we'll explore the four main postures that make up a vinyasa and work our way up to eagle pose. Take your time, transitioning from a seat all the way to your hands and knees. We'll place both hands directly beneath both shoulders and the knees directly beneath both hips. From this tabletop position, we'll let the belly sink down towards the mat for cow pose. We'll transition up to cat pose, pressing the ground away and sending the upper back towards the sky. Move through these a couple times at your own pace, arching the belly low, curving the lower back, balancing it out by pressing the mat away, rounding in the shoulders. After your last cat pose, we'll begin transitioning to the first posture of a vinyasa sequence, downward facing dog. The weight of the body is balanced in the hands, the hips, and the feet. Depending on your body, the feet might be flat on the mat or the heels can be lifted. The second position of vinyasa is plank pose. We'll shift our body weight forward, stacking the shoulders over the wrists. And then find the third position, chaturanga, with the elbows in beside you, lowering all the way down to the mat. The last piece of a vinyasa will press away from the mat to find cobra pose, or a back bend. You also have the option of upward facing dog, letting the legs hover off the mat as well. I'll demonstrate once more the four positions of a vinyasa, and we'll practice throughout our session. Downward dog to plank, through chaturanga, and up to cobra pose, or upward facing dog. We'll meet in a downward facing dog to continue. Whenever you're ready, extend the right leg long and back behind the body. We'll bring the right foot up between both hands, even if you need a moment to get there. With an inhale, rise up to a high lunge. Right knee is stacked over right ankle. You can also come down onto your left knee here if that's more comfortable for you. Stay strong with your breath. We'll inhale towards the sky and bring the hands down to the mat, coming back to downward facing dog and moving through a vinyasa. This time from our down dog, we'll lift the left leg up and back behind us, drawing the left foot all the way under the body and up between the hands. When you're ready, with an inhale, rise up to a high lunge position, left knee stacked over left ankle. Again, you're welcome to come down onto your right knee if it's more comfortable for you. Finding your power. Together, we'll inhale the hands up to the sky, and as we exhale, let them float back down to the mat, and we'll step back to downward facing dog. This time, we'll lift the right leg up and back again, bringing the foot up between the hands, and rising up to a high lunge one more time. But from here, we'll step the left foot up to meet the right, so we're finding a deep chair pose. As if you're sitting in a chair, the hips are working their way down towards the ground. Knees are stacked as much as possible above the ankles, and you want to keep your body weight in your heels, not in the knees or hips. Engage your core here. And if you want an extra challenge, you can try stepping the left leg back and returning to your high lunge. We'll take a twist and hook the left elbow on the outside of the right knee. We'll do our best to keep our hands together at the heart, or you can open them up and fly the arms here. This is a twisting high lunge. If your hands are at the center, we'll bring them back, facing forward. Hands to the mat, and we'll release, moving through a vinyasa to change sides. From our downward facing dog, shifting the body weight forward to plank, bringing the elbows close to you as you lower through chaturanga, and the legs flat as you press up to cobra pose, finding a nice back bend. We'll meet in downward facing dog to take it on the opposite side. This time lifting the left leg up and back behind you before bringing the foot between the hands. Rising up to your high lunge. And strategically bringing the right foot up to meet the left for your chair pose. Do your best to keep your weight in your heels. Engage the core. And keep the hips working down towards the ground. Maybe with your exhalations, you're able to go a little deeper in your chair. When you're ready, we'll take the right leg back behind us, finding a high lunge on the left side before moving into our twist. Twisting to the left and hooking the right elbow to the outside of the left knee. If it doesn't quite reach today, don't worry, just do your best. Find what feels best to you without pain or discomfort. You have the option of flying the arms open or keeping the hands together at heart center. When you're ready, we'll shift back to center, bring the hands down to the mat, and move once again through a vinyasa, downward facing dog. Inhaling forward to plank pose. Exhaling slowly down with the elbows tucked at your sides, chaturanga. And with another inhale, pressing up to cobra or upward facing dog. We'll come up to hands and knees, taking the knees about as wide apart as the mat and relaxing the hips back towards the heels for a moment of rest in child's pose. Find your breath here. Check in with your body, your mind. Breathe. Your next inhalation will rise back up through plank, all the way to downward facing dog, and we'll lift the right leg up and back behind us, bringing the foot up between the hands, and coming to a high lunge, all the way to warrior one, the left foot flat on the mat behind you. We'll open the arms to warrior two, moving into extended side angle, and then to reverse warrior, visiting all our warrior postures to get us ready for eagle pose later in our session today. We'll come back through warrior one, stepping both feet up to the top of the mat together for chair pose. Keep your hips moving down towards the ground, your weight in the heels. We'll bring both arms directly in front of the body and let the hands float down towards the mat, stepping the feet back to downward facing dog, moving through a vinyasa once again. We'll lift the left leg back this time, moving through our warrior postures. Bringing the left foot between the hands, rising up through a high lunge to warrior one. The right foot will come flat on the mat behind you. We'll open the hips side to side, extending the arms in front and behind us for warrior two. Left elbow to left knee, right arm overhead for extended side angle. And we'll switch the arms for reverse warrior. Left arm arching towards behind you. Coming back to warrior one. We'll step the feet together for chair pose. Keeping our weight in the heels, the core engaged, the hips moving down. We'll lift the left leg up off the mat, and then the right, prepping for eagle pose. Bring the hands to the knees for a moment of rest from chair pose. Find your breath again. Check in with yourself. Once again, finding chair and balancing it out with a moment of rest, hands on the knees. The next inhalation, reach for the sky with the hands, and we'll fold all the way back down to the mat. Hands will touch the earth. Stepping back to downward facing dog. Moving through our vinyasa with breath. Inhaling from here, forward to plank. Exhaling as you move through chaturanga. Inhale as you press up to your back bend, cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale as you come to child's pose. A moment of rest. Balancing our work. We'll come up through table, back to downward facing dog, working our way to eagle pose now. We'll walk the feet up to the hands and rise back into a nice chair pose. From here, we'll shift all of our weight into the left foot and lift the right foot up off the mat before crossing the right leg over the left. The right toes can stay against the mat to support you or wrap around the left leg. We'll take the arms out wide and wrap the right arm under the left. You have found eagle pose. If you want a bit more challenge here, you can work on bringing your hips down towards the mat and raising the arms up towards the sky. Maybe even a gentle bow. Maintaining focus, maintaining breath. We'll release everything, gently retracing our steps. Coming back to standing. Exhaling the hands down to the mat. Releasing through the lower back in a nice forward bend. We'll grab onto both elbows and just sway for a moment from side to side. We'll move through a vinyasa, downward facing dog, inhaling to plank, exhaling through chaturanga, inhaling to cobra. Meeting back in downward facing dog to take our eagle on the next side. We'll walk to the hands, rise back up to our chair pose, this time lifting the left leg and crossing it over the right. The left arm will arch under the right arm. They'll twist together and the hands will lift towards the sky. If you'd like to keep bringing your hips into more of a chair position here, that's a good challenging option. Maybe you're able to find a slight gentle bow. Stay with your breath here, and if you need to come out, no problem. You can try as many times as necessary. We'll release our eagles together, coming back to standing, releasing the hands down to our sides, and taking a moment in Tadasana, mountain pose. Finding your breath, observing the body and any sensations. Take a moment to receive the beautiful work of your yoga today. Observe your breath. Maybe notice your heartbeat. Be with yourself for a moment. To close, we'll inhale the hands up towards the sky once more together. As we exhale, we'll bring them all the way down to the mat. From our forward fold, we'll walk the hands forward, finding once again downward facing dog. Moving through our last vinyasa together. Inhaling to plank, lowering down through chaturanga, pressing up to our cobra or upward facing dog. And to close, we'll take one moment of forearm plank, bringing the hands together, the elbows at either side of you. We'll press into our arms and rise up on the toes to hold the body above the mat. Keep your gaze forward and your core engaged. One last posture to seal our work today. You're welcome to come down whenever you'd like, but I encourage you to try a few times, engaging the core, elbows at your sides. And lastly, we'll come back to a child's pose for one last moment of rest. When you're ready, we'll gently rise up and transition to a comfortable seat on the mat. Just as we began, observe your breath. Observe your state of mind. If anything has changed since we began our practice, we'll give ourselves a big hug. Thank yourself for this gift of yoga today, this action of self-care and intentionality. Bring the hands together at the third eye. Namaste. Thank you so much for sharing with me today.